over 80 killed in the latest Israeli strikes and a growing international condemnation, including threats of concrete action from key allies like Canada, France and the UK. How isolated is Israel becoming on the global stage?
Unfortunately, systematic killings operations underway by the Israeli occupation, despite the start of the humanitarian aid delivery, as it is the last hope of the Palestinian people. True that the quantity is still not enough, but it is better than nothing, and therefore that it was some sort of hope this morning in Gaza, but the continuation of the military operation that would undermine the aspiration of the Palestinian people upon delivering the humanitarian aid. But with respect to that, Israel is the one that controls this year, as the Arab foreign media platforms trying to lay out the accusation to the Arab countries and even Egypt, but history before the reality respond to such allegations, as Egypt has always supported the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, and all the peoples of Egypt spend all what they can in donating the humanitarian aid, and therefore we're trying to push forward this era of humanitarian aid to be more sufficient. And despite all of that, at the diplomatic level, Egypt is in the front in reaching a full comprehensive ceasefire agreement. And now we are saying the United States unilaterally, but the France and Canada and Britain all are trying to save their images before the others in rejecting the military actions and put an end of such crimes.
Well, sir, now there have been warnings from UN officials that thousands of children are at risk of dying within the next 48 hours without access to aid, and yet access to aid remains limited. Is this some sort of failure of diplomacy or just a deliberate tactic of war?
In fact, numbers of the Palestinian martyrs and victims since October 23, according to my estimation, is more than that. As the announced figures are talking about the killings during the military operations. What about the killings as a result of shortages of water, food and medicine? And what about the moral and the psychological factors? And what about that not less than 60,000 Palestinians are missing, and apart from the 50,000 martyrs, but it's about 60 to 70 Palestinians that are unknown. And all the Palestinian expectations that they are under the rebels that have never been lifted throughout the past 2 years. So since October 2023, if we talk about the humanitarian aid, we should talk about the infernos, and we should talk about it delivering and having the access of this aid as soon as possible. And as the amount of crimes have exceeded to what has been actually took place throughout 200 years ago.
Well, sir, as you said earlier in the interview, that yesterday only 9 trucks were allowed into the Gaza Strip, and today there's an approval of 100 aid trucks. But the reality is that Gaza needs at least 500 aid trucks a day to enter. So how effective will this 100 truck be in relieving or alleviating the human crisis, given the scale of destruction and the very limited supplies that they have after this long blockade?
This is how Israel is in launching the starvation war and horror and the shortage of food, and therefore there's a big difference between the needs compared to the very minimum trucks that entered Gaza this morning. And Egypt, as the Egyptian state is pursuing more pressure to move forward and get the more quantities of drugs. And of course, the international community is stand by. That clarifies the double standards of the Western communities. For the European and the Western community do not accept what's happening, such deeds by Russian against the Ukrainian people. But what we see, it's negligence and leaving the Israeli occupation do whatever they like for the Palestinian people. And if we compare to defending the West, the humanity in Ukraine, and regardless of what's happening to the Palestinian people, so would let us to realize that they are just principle for sale. If they serve the Western interests, they are principles. If not, they do not think ever about what's happening.
Okay, sir. Well, now Qatar's Prime Minister also mentioned disagreements hindering the ceasefire negotiations between Hamas and Israel. What are the core issues that are preventing a breakthrough, and how can international mediators help bridge these divides?
Up till now, Qatar has no clear vision in full. We relying on a statement issued by Doha. What's happening in the closed doors is throughout the Egyptian vision into how to end such a catastrophe as soon as possible, but with actually the guaranteeing internationally and to resume the fighting once again as it happened in March. So we are pursuing the whole world in the peaceful scale behind in the Egyptian vision to mitigate this aggression as soon as possible.